it's ready to go in. I've got the converter, rebuilt converter, completely seated into the pump with a clunk, and I've got a piece of scrap wire on each side. Dirty. Piece of scrap wire on each side over to the torque converter cover hole screws, get it tight so it'll keep the converter from sliding out. Once I get the transmission bolted into place, I'll just cut these wires and pull it out, and we'll be in good shape. Don't have to worry about it converter sliding out. So I'm gonna have to slide it under the truck. I got it on that shop towel. Slide it under the truck, then I can try to get it onto my transmission jack. Not an easy job. And I can't put it on the transmission jack before because the truck's not high enough. And I can't raise my stands up higher. Success. So here's where tying the converter comes in handy. So I slid it up under here. No way I was gonna pick this transmission up laying on my back. So what I did, I tilted the tail shaft. I can pick up one end or the other end. So I picked up the tail shaft, tilted the transmission almost, I mean it was probably at least at a 45-degree angle with the converter, you know, on the ground. Took my transmission jack, put it on the same angle so it was only sitting on two wheels, strapped the transmission jack to the transmission, and then pulled the tail shaft back down, which pulled the jack too, and it pulled, you know, and it pulled back down on the back wheels and the jack. So fairly easy job getting it on the transmission jack. So now, like I said, converter's tied so it didn't slip forward or anything. Now that we're up under here, I need to get these wires out of the way, and I'm just gonna got a bunch of different wires. Get them all out of the way, and we can start raising up the transmission. Alright, this is how I'm going to leave it for tonight, but y'all will be seeing it all in one video. And I just put that right there just in case my transmission falls. It shouldn't. It's not hydraulic or anything, so it should stay exactly right there. I've got 4 bolts in it, 2 on each side, and so it's pulled up, and that's how your converter is fully seated. Once you get your transmission in, you should have to pull the converter out to get to the flywheel. Flex plate. You know, it shouldn't be pinned up against it. You should have to pull the converter out just a little bit. So you know, get it out just a little bit. So anyway, that's where I'm leaving it tonight, and we'll finish up tomorrow. That's the next day for me, but for y'all, just the next little part of this video. Of course, my transmission jack didn't drop, but like I said, I had that stand under it just in case. I've got all the transmission bolts in. I've got the kickdown cable in. I've got the electrical plugs plugged back in, as you can see. And this was a whole lot easier going back together. So the secret is leave those top two bolts so after you get the cross member undone. I think the cross member is probably the first thing you should undo, and then with it dropped down like it is, it's sitting a lot lower than it would on the cross member. Those bolts are easy to get to. So everything's in and tight. I've got the torque converter bolts in and tight. When you do those, you'll need something to hold, well, this screwdriver fit perfect in the lug of this converter for me to hold. And actually I was using that to pull the engine around, to rotate it around. But so you can hold against the engine, because you're not going to be able to get them tight enough, you know, you'll start just turning over the engine. So you need something to hold it, keep the flywheel from turning when you tighten these up, because you need to get them real tight. There's 3 converter bolts. Make sure to start all 3 before you tighten them down. I know that's a pain, but if you don't, you may not be able to get the other 2 started. So, you know, if you tighten down one, then you may not be able to get the others in. So, just make sure you get those all 3 in there, and then you can tighten them up. Let's see. So our next step, oh, and I did flush the cooler lines, and I've got them hooked back up. Make sure you flush them. If you've got any metal shavings or anything, you don't want to send those through your transmission, so I flushed them out real good. What else? I got the shift linkage hooked up on the other side. So really what we got left, we need to hook the, well, my next step is to put the cross member back in. Once I get that done, then I will put the flex plate cover on and the drive shaft. Oh, and I need to replace this piece of rubber. This the old modulator was leaking, so this was leaking fluid, and so this rubber hose is all swelled and I need to replace it. And then I can get that. This is needs to be tweaked a little bit. It's a little bent out of shape. And I can easily modify that. Get that. It's supposed to go down in that modulator. I'll get that bent right, and we'll get it in there, and I'll put a rubber hose on it and get it connected up. Then we'll put some transmission fluid in it, and we'll be ready to crank it up. Oh, and I was able to just cut those wires and pull them through that were holding the torque converter. Worked perfect. So let me get the rest of this stuff hooked up. We'll see how it does. It's in. Drive shaft's in. Transmission's in. Everything's hooked up, bolted up. Everything's tight. So now we can add fluid. Oh, I need to hook up the kickdown cable up on the carburetor, and I'll need to adjust it. But other than that, we're done. These U-joints are greasy, but good.